Hey everybody, it's Fat Albert. Just kidding. Welcome everyone to the next latest and greatest episode of the House Husband Diaries. As always, I am your host, Carter C. And today's theme is themes. The theme of the themes that we're going to go through today is falling down. Now, some might say, I don't really understand why you would call this a theme or what the purpose of this is. But instead of going chronologically, I'm going to go to one of the last mentions that I found and start there, and then I'll work my way back from the beginning. But I want to share this one first because it's what brought this to my attention as falling down seems to be something, an aberration that continues to pop up in these different stories. So if you turn with me to page 94, My War for Me, 11th edition of The Thrill of the Chase, and it's right at the top of the page. He says, "I tripped over something and fell flat on my face. That never happens to me." And I thought, that never happens to me. I feel like when I was reading earlier, I remember him falling down a fair amount of times, and I hadn't picked up on it as like an aberration or something that's been repeated, an issue. They were part of the story. Okay, he fell down. Okay, he fell down. But then I get to page 94, and he says he tripped over something. He fell flat on his face, and that never happens to him. Well, if it never happens, why in the back of my mind do I have these memories that in previous stories you've mentioned falling down a fair number of times? That's weird. It's an aberration in my mind. So then I had to go back and read it again and go, wait, okay, I see this. Let me write them down. So that's what I did. Now I'm not saying I caught every single one of the situations or the mentions of falling down. But if you turn back to almost the beginning, page 29, Bessie and Me, and you look down, towards the bottom of that first paragraph, he says, "I usually tied it." Did I say page 29? I did. Bessie and Me. Bottom of the first paragraph. "I usually tied it to a fence post before I started milking because sometimes she'd give a hard swish and club me on the head. It hurt plenty, and if I flinched too much, I'd either fall off the stool or kick the bucket over trying to get out of the way." First mention of fall. Second mention of fall. 2 pages over. 31. "But there must have been some big flies around because she swished her tail, or that tail, so hard the stool went flying, making me fall into a fresh cow pie." So it's 2 mentions of fall, pages 29 and 31. And there may be something else there. I think it's interesting that he fell into a fresh cow pie. And then the next sentence is interesting, and that gets to another theme of mine that I'll talk about later, but a theme of love. And he says, "Until you have loved a cow, part of your soul remains undiscovered." Now, that may be just a throwaway sentence for Forrest. I mean, that's kind of Fenn speak. But I thought that was really interesting, a really interesting sentence. The first time I read the book, it stuck out to me, but I didn't really have anything to go off of. So we've got 2 mentions of fall. And then turn over a couple of pages, page 35, Me in the Middle, right? Not too far down. "The Indians really had fun, sometimes running into each other in the chase and falling down laughing. The thrill of the chase. Indians, home of Brown. Fun, run into each other, falling down, laughing." That sentence has a lot in it. I don't know. Does it mention? Is it subtle hint to multiple clues? Home of Brown, the Indians, the chase, falling down, laughing. Wouldn't you just laugh when you got to the treasure chest and you open it and you see all of the gold and treasures inside the bronze chest? Would you fall down laughing? Would you just keel over and laugh? Would you just you're just so amazed at the treasure when you find it? I don't know. It's interesting. Aberrations. Next mention. Let's go over a dozen pages. A baker's dozen. Page 48. Top of the page. He's just been canned. Now, I was not only out of a job, I also felt like I'd fallen back to a place where there was no more back to fall back to. I'm sure many of you have read that sentence and gone, that doesn't even make any sense. Is it an aberration? Is it because he mentions falling back to a place where there is no more back to fall back to? Does it have any other meaning, or is it just Fenn speak? I don't know, but it's another mention of fall, which also has to do with crying and other things. Why I pick up on some of this stuff, because they're all intertwined. Forrest seems like a complicated guy that would be intertwined. He would intertwine things. He's an intertwiner. And then the next mention I started with, page 94. He says he fell flat on his face, and that never happens to him. Right? And then we get to page 96, and he says, "It was more than strange that I would fall to the ground and read such a poignant inscription. And why did the words impact me so?" Now he's talking about the falling from page 94, so I don't think that's, necessarily, I mean, it is an additional mention, but it has a purpose, not just that he mentioned it again. Now, one that I didn't write down, I don't believe, let me go back, or maybe I was just flipping through so much. So this is the other one. How did I skip this? I don't know how I skipped this one. Page 70. And I used the first part of this in one of my previous videos, and I'll reread that sentence. "To avoid detection, I ran full speed across an open field, crying all the way until I reached a small county road that led back home. I remember falling twice while trying to get through the dumb barbed wire fence." So just 20 pages later, on page 94, 24 pages later, he says, "I fell flat on my face, that never happens to me." But yet, he fell twice leaving Texas A&M. He fell multiple times when he was milking Bessie. He fell back to places where you couldn't fall back to when he got fired or canned, and then the Indians fell down laughing, which I know isn't him, but a lot of falling down in TTOTC. So I don't want to make this video too long, but the theme of falling down or tripping, it pops up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times in The Thrill of the Chase. And some of those times he says I fell down more than once. So you're talking almost a dozen, times where he mentions falling down, yet on page 94 he says that never happens to him. Thoughts, comments, questions. What do you think? Do you think I'm being, silly? Do you think I'm being crazy out in left field? Do you think it makes sense that maybe that is an aberration? That maybe there is something to falling down. Now, whether that means you fall down because you look in, when you fall down, you trip over the chest. If you're following the clues and you're in chest high grass or waist high grass, then you're just going to trip over. Maybe you'll just trip over the treasure chest. You won't really know. You'll be looking at the blaze, and maybe you'll just fall over the treasure chest, and you won't even be look quickly down. But maybe looking quickly down as you look down as you're falling to see what you're falling over or on, and it's the treasure chest. I don't know, but I'm fascinated by all of the different themes as I put together these spreadsheets, as I read and reread and reread The Thrill of the Chase, and I start looking at how many similar mentions of different themes are in all of these stories, or not all of them, but a large number of these stories. You got 5, 6, 7 mentions, 3 to 5 mentions of these different themes that don't really seem like they have a reason, like a play. In my mind, I don't know Forrest very well, never met the man, but it seems like there's a lot to his life that he could have put in The Thrill of the Chase that doesn't involve falling down, that doesn't involve crying. But he chose those stories for whatever reason to share with us in The Thrill of the Chase. So let me know what your thoughts are. As always, if you like it, subscribe, thumbs up, comment. I love the comments. Stay positive in the comments. If you let me know, sorry, people asked about the crunching in an earlier video. That was the puppy. Sometimes he's uncontrollable, so I give him a little bone or something, and he's making more noise. So thanks for putting up with me with the crunching, and let me know. I'd love to keep chatting with you, and y'all have a great day. Thanks so much for watching this episode of the House Husband Diaries. Talk to you in the next episode.